The story of epoxy resin in modern design is not just a tale of a new material, but a chronicle of a chemical revolution that has blurred the lines between industrial engineering and fine art. At its core, the fascination with resin stems from its dual nature. It begins as a viscous, honey-like liquid that flows into the smallest crevices of a textured rug or the jagged cracks of an ancient olive wood slab, only to undergo a dramatic molecular transformation. This process, known as cross-linking, turns a fragile fluid into a rigid, glass-like polymer that is virtually indestructible. This metamorphosis allows designers to freeze objects in a state of perpetual suspension, creating a visual paradox where soft textiles like wool or silk appear submerged in a solid, crystal-clear sea. The precision required in this initial phase is grueling. The artisan must calculate the exact mixing ratios of the resin and hardener, as even a 1% deviation can lead to a soft cure, leaving the table tacky and ruined forever. Beyond the chemistry, the true magic of this medium lies in the intentional manipulation of depth and light. When a craftsman integrates 3D elements like a wavy monochrome rug or layered minerals, they are creating a topographical map that plays with the viewer's perspective. The resin acts as a magnifying lens, intensifying the colors of the fabric and giving a wet, vibrant look to materials that would otherwise look dull. This depth is further enhanced by the strategic placement of LED light strips. By embedding these lights deep within the folds of a rug or the cavities of wood before the resin is poured, the light is forced to refract through the solidified polymer. This creates a soft, ambient glow that seems to emanate from the soul of the table rather than its surface. In a dimly lit room, such a piece ceases to be furniture and becomes a light sculpture, shifting the entire mood of the interior space from a cold, modern environment to a warm, ethereal sanctuary. The labor-intensive nature of these creations is what separates a mass-produced item from a true masterpiece. A single high-end resin table can take hundreds of hours to complete, involving multiple pours to avoid excessive heat buildup. If too much resin is poured at once, the exothermic reaction can become a runaway, reaching temperatures high enough to melt the mold or char the wood inside. Therefore, the artisan must wait days between layers, meticulously degassing each one with a blowtorch or a vacuum pump to ensure that not a single bubble remains to obstruct the view. Once the resin is fully cured, the real work begins, the sanding process. Starting with a coarse grit to level the surface, the craftsman moves through dozens of finer and finer stages until the surface is as smooth as silk. The final polishing stage is almost meditative, using specialized compounds to bring back the mirror-like shine that was lost during sanding, a process that requires a level of patience that few possess. Furthermore, this movement represents a significant leap forward in the philosophy of sustainable luxury and upcycling. In traditional woodworking, a piece of timber with a large rot hole or a lightning strike crack would be considered waste and sent to a wood chipper. In the world of resin art, these defects are the most prized features. The resin fills these voids, providing structural integrity to wood that would otherwise fall apart, and turning a scar into a feature of immense beauty. This approach celebrates the history of the material, whether it is a 100-year-old slab of walnut or a hand-woven rug with a storied past. By encasing these items in epoxy, the artisan is essentially creating a time capsule. The material inside is protected from oxygen, moisture, and decay, ensuring that the beauty of the object is preserved for generations to come, standing as a testament to the era in which it was created. Ultimately, the global obsession with epoxy resin furniture is a reaction against the fast furniture culture of the 21st century. People are increasingly seeking objects that have a soul, a story, and a tactile quality that cannot be replicated by a machine in a factory. A resin table is a conversation starter. It invites the observer to touch its surface, to peer into its depths, and to wonder how such a complex marriage of materials was even possible. It represents a return to the master craftsman era, but with a futuristic twist. As we look toward the future of interior design, the boundaries will continue to push further, integrating smart technology, interactive sensors, and even more exotic materials into the resin. However, the core appeal will always remain the same: the breathtaking sight of something beautiful caught forever in a moment of perfect crystalline stillness. Gala Gemini. The evolution of resin craftsmanship has now reached a pivotal intersection where traditional hand tooling meets the precision of the digital age. Master artisans are no longer just pouring liquid into wooden frames. They are employing CNC machining to carve intricate channels into the wood or fabric before the resin ever touches the surface. This allows for a level of geometric complexity that was previously impossible, creating circuitry patterns or geometric webs that seem to defy the organic nature of the materials involved. When the transparent polymer fills these digitally carved paths, it creates a visual tension between the chaotic, natural grain of the timber and the cold, perfect lines of human-made design. This contrast is the hallmark of the new high-tech rustic aesthetic, where the warmth of a textured rug is encased in a shell that feels as futuristic as a spacecraft. Moreover, the chemical engineering behind the resin itself is undergoing a silent transformation to meet the demands of high-end galleries and luxury collectors. New formulations of demolding agents and UV stabilizers ensure that the crystal-clear clarity of the table remains untarnished even after decades of exposure to direct sunlight. In the past, early resin works were prone to ambering or turning a pale yellow, but modern optical-grade epoxies contain hindered amine light stabilizers that act as a permanent sunscreen for the art. This technological leap has elevated resin from a hobbyist material to a museum-grade medium, attracting serious art investors who see these tables as blue-chip assets. The surface hardness has also been improved to reach a Shore D rating that rivals tempered glass, making these pieces practically immune to the scratches and dings of daily household life. As we look deeper into the structural psychology of these works, we find that the internal landscape of the table is what truly captivates the human eye. By using alcohol inks or mica pigments dropped into the resin while it is still in a semi-liquid state, artists can create Petri effects that look like microscopic biological cells or vast aerial views of mountain ranges. This layering technique requires the artist to work in a state of controlled chaos, knowing exactly when the resin is thick enough to hold the pigment in place without letting it sink to the very bottom. It is a dance with gravity and viscosity that must be performed within a narrow window of time before the chemical gel point is reached. Once the resin sets, these swirls of color are locked in a 3D suspension, providing a different visual experience from every angle the observer takes. In the final analysis, the journey of a resin table from a messy, liquid beginning to a polished, high-definition masterpiece is a reflection of our modern desire for permanent beauty. In an era of digital fleetingness and disposable goods, there is a profound comfort in owning something that is solid, heavy, and undeniably real. The weight of a resin table, often requiring 3 or 4 people just to move, is a physical manifestation of its value. It is a piece of the earth, a piece of a loom, and a piece of a laboratory, all fused together into a singular, breathtaking entity. As long as humans crave the tactile and the extraordinary, the art of the resin pour will continue to push the boundaries of what is possible, turning the mundane objects of our lives into glowing monuments of creativity that will stand the test of time for centuries to come.